you all to her. She helps us secure sponsorship for our breakfast and our coffee every single month, and she is a dream to work with. So I wanted to introduce her.
You guys, I just wanted to jump up here. This is my favorite morning of the month, and I started volunteering behind the scenes like, I don't know, not quite a year ago, and I love it. I mean, I just get to talk to people all over the city about my favorite morning of the month. But recently, one of our kind of regular attenders bought us donuts. And as I was kind of walking her through what that looks like, she goes, "Oh, that's it?" And I was like, you know, I see a lot of the same faces from month to month. And I just wanted to let you guys know who I was, that I have information if you're ever interested in partnering with us. Sometimes it can be just as easy as buying donuts, or you can go all out like John and Tim and make an amazing spread. The scones, you guys. Yes, and the coffee paired so perfectly. So if you want to showcase any kind of culinary creativity, we are here for it. Or if you want to rent us some chairs, or if you own a lot of chairs and you want to let us sit in them sometimes, like, come to me. I have information and I can walk you through it. It's very simple, and I just wanted to say hi, introduce myself, and thanks. Thanks for being here. I love it.
Thanks, Beth. Good morning. Good morning. That's right, one more time. It's not that gloomy. Good morning. Good morning. Right. I'm Clint Williams with Clover Partners and Roasted Scout, and I love Creative Mornings. I get to come up and introduce good morning to everybody. So, first of all, let's see. We've got our slides here. Who's advancing the slides? Jared? Awesome. Oh, I have myself? No. How many people? First of all, how about the musician this morning, Jake Hewitt? I don't know if he's still here, but he was fantastic. It was awesome. So I want John to come up and read the manifesto. John is the scone, so if you have a scone this morning, this is what you got.
Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. You are welcome. Everyone is welcome.
Okay, if you have a cup of coffee, Compadres Coffee delivered that this morning. They're fantastic. Let's give a big hand to them. And of course, scone. John, thank you again for the scones. And yeah, Jake for the music. So this is, can't see this like this, the backyard in the plaza. Let's give a hand to the backyard in the plaza. I know the original plan was to be outside and then the weather didn't permit, but this is fantastic. So thanks to Andrea and Mel for making sure that we had a place that was dry. All right, Eddie, where are you at, man?
I'm right here.
All right, let's do this.
Yes, all right. What are we doing?
You're gonna introduce the
Okay, yes. All right. But hey, before we do that, this is like too good for not to do a selfie. Because y'all like crammed together. Since nobody else came up and did a selfie, I'm going to do one if y'all don't mind. Who did get a high five from me today? Are you? Y'all did or didn't? Yeah. You all got a high five. Anybody did not get a high five from me? We just want to make sure we get that done. All right, we're going to do this selfie from right here. Yeah, you want to get in the tulips. You want to get this selfie. See? All right, let's see if I can do this right. Oh my goodness, look at all of you all. You're all so cute. All right, make your handsome, okay? All right, let me get right there. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, good. Get that All right, so I get the great opportunity to introduce our speakers on a regular basis here at Creative Mornings. And what I do when they say, hey, Hetty, you're going to pronounce, no, wait, hold on a second. Hey, Hetty, they say, hey, Hetty, you're going to introduce our next speaker. I say, great, who is it? And they always give me some name I can't pronounce, you know what I'm saying? And so I go to their Instagram and I start looking at their name to try to work on it. I put it in Google and say, Google, how do you say this name? Right? And Google never gives me any information. And then I have to come to them in the mornings and I say, hey, what's your name again? How do you say your name? But while I'm online, I look around and I try to find at least one thing I can say about this person before they come up and speak. And today I asked this person, I said, give me one moment that made you the happiest in life. And they sat there quiet. And I sat there quiet. And I waited for this moment because this is the moment I was going to share with you all before we go into this rambunctious applause for this speaker. She says, her name is Huda. And she says, my favorite moment in life. And so she says, well, one of my favorite moments. And I said, okay, one of your favorite moments. And we looked at each other's eyes. And she says, when my grandfather had an opportunity to see his first great grandchild. Ladies and gentlemen, what a moment. Would you please stand to your feet and give it up for Huda!
Hey everyone, I don't think I can beat his energy. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Now before I get started, one question that I always get asked a lot is, where are you from? You know, who are you? It always takes me a good minute and then the first thing I say is, good question, because it's a long story. So I was actually born in Liverpool, England. That's where the Beatles are from. And we lived there for 3 years while my father was completing his PhD. After that, we moved to Saudi Arabia, where my father worked at the King's Hospital. There we lived in something called Medical City, which is a gated community with 2 different checkpoints and machine tanks at each checkpoint. So for us growing up, that was totally normal. You know, we'd come in from school and see the guy on top of the machine tank and say, hey, what's up, man, you know? And so in that community lived expats. So we had Americans, Europeans, people from all over the world. Here's an image just to show you, because you know when you see Saudi Arabia, you get different images. And so this is one that I wanted to share. So this is the compound we lived in. That's me in the top corner. So that's actually back in the 80s. So these are people that worked at the hospital and just, you know, after they got out, they went by the pool. In there, women can drive, you could wear whatever you wanted, complete and total freedom in there. And it was a big enough city where you didn't need to go out. We had, you know, the hospital, we had restaurants, pools, supermarkets, anything and everything. And everyone worked together, so all your work friends were your neighbors. And then that's the main entrance checkpoint. And then my father accepted a position at a hospital in Dallas, and so we moved here. So in Saudi Arabia, I attended the British International School, and it had over 60 different nationalities. So growing up, I was around people from all over the world, and that was for 13 years. And so I remember moving here at the age of 14, and it was in high school, and it was really tough for me. I spoke English perfectly fine because I went to a British school, but I remember walking into the cafeteria with my tray and just looking and saying, wow, this is just like the movies, you know? Like I saw the different groups, and in my head I was thinking, okay, well, where do I fit in then? You know, do I sit here? Do I sit there? You know, I'm so used to, and then it got me thinking, wait, so my friend back home is technically Asian? And I had no idea. And so for me, that was such a blessing that I'd never differentiated who was who until, you know, I was an adult. So Khartoum, Sudan, both my parents are born there, and that's where I'm originally from. So my relationship with Sudan comes from my annual visits there to visit my family, along with my parents' stories. And so growing up, I was sort of lacking a sense of community, a sense of identity, and it was through my formative years that I began to sort of question who I was and what my identity and things like that. And through art and architecture is where I sort of found that, deep connection. Because growing up, I differentiated all those countries I was living in by their architecture. I knew we were in England and I knew I was in Sudan just by their buildings. And as I grew older, I began to sort of question, why this material or why this style, and sort of hear those people's stories that were living in those buildings, And so that's where my passion for architecture began, and for art as well. And sort of, I was never good with words, so when people asked me, how do you express your emotions, how do you express your identity, I would just sort of paint out those emotions. And then that's where sort of my interest in art and background in art came from. And so December of 2018, the Sudanese revolution unfolded, where they were overthrowing a 30-year dictator who was known for his war crimes and genocide. And watching that from afar, I felt like the best sort of contribution I can offer was to be myself wholeheartedly with my paintbrush and just paint those emotions and paint I felt like I was an ambassador for Sudan through my art. I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be out here sharing articles, let me just share this artwork and maybe capture these people's emotions, capture the spirit of the revolution. And I felt like this picture does just that. There's art, there were artists, there were poets, old men closed up their bookstores and took all the books and just laid them on the floor for people to read. There were people reading, people cooking, people drinking tea. So, this revolution was just so poetic. When you think Arab Revolution, you think of, the killing. And of course, killing did happen in this revolution. But people came out as peaceful as possible. And people were chanting and singing. And it was just so awe-inspiring that I wished I could be there. But the best way that I could was just to paint out every single iconic moment that happened. So this is one of my first paintings that I did. So this train is from Atbara. So the Atbara train, Atbara is where my mother was born. And Atbara is the city where most revolutions sort of rile up and start. And so this train was arriving. This is early in the morning. So this train was coming in, and as it was arriving, these people started getting on top of the train, around the train, chanting and singing, and just we're here, let's do this together, and let's just, we want a civilian government, let's do the best we can. And so I just started, me being in Sudan and visiting Sudan, I know how the people are, I know how the atmosphere is like, and the best way for me to portray that is just putting paint, just as much as I could. So although it's abstract, it's very intentional. Now, this next image is called Friday Prayer. And so on Friday, usually everyone gets off of work really early, and so everyone's at the protest. So everyone's sort of walking and chanting, and then the second prayer started, these people just started naturally forming the lines to pray. And then they prayed, and then somebody captured this image, which I thought was so beautiful, because keep in mind, Friday prayer is usually around noon. Noon, the sun is right here, and it is hot in Sudan, like maybe, 110 degrees or even more. And so these people are so peacefully praying and just, being side by side. And the best thing too is you can't tell who is the rich person from the poor person, from the homeless, because they're all side by side, and that image just portrays how beautiful this revolution was. Now, before I get to this painting, do I have any Candaces in the room? Is there a Candace? Well, at least we all know at least one Candace. Well, let her know that her name actually is a Sudanese name, and it comes from the word Kandaka. Kandaka means Nubian queen, and a Nubian queen, sort of like a powerful woman, a woman who goes into politics peacefully, one that promotes change, one that, is on the front lines, of every sort of social movement or anything. So that's what a Kandaka is. So this 22-year-old girl, have you guys seen this picture when it was on the news? So this 22-year-old girl gets on top of the car and starts to chant her grandmother's poetry, where she says, my grandmother is a Kandaka, my grandmother is a Kandaka, look at all the women around me, we're all Kandakas, let's do this, and things like that. And so if you notice, they're all women that are around her, and the women made up 70% of this revolution. So it was called the Women's Revolution, because these women were on the front lines, peacefully, and these men were just, by saying women were on the front lines, where these men obviously protected them so that they wouldn't get shot by the military, but these women were the driving force. And keep in mind, there was no internet. This was all mobilization in person. To get that many people out on the streets saying, hey, knowing that, there could have been a chance that they would, be killed, all these people were out. And so her outfit too was very symbolic. The white tobe she's wearing is made out of khan, and that's what professional women in Sudan wore. So the professional woman at work, in politics, that was the attire that she wore. So it's very symbolic. And then the golden earrings she's wearing, I went to Dillard's the other day, I was like, I have to find these gold earrings. So they symbolize sort of the feminine Sudanese woman, the luxurious, the educated, you get a lot of, I guess when people think Africa, for the most part, they don't think educated, or they don't think luxurious, or they don't think, just from, especially Sudan, because the first image that comes from Sudan is Darfur. And all that was happening because of the government. And now that the government has stepped down, and let me say, it stepped down right after this. And so I started painting it, and I started painting those emotions and those colors, and then bam, The Guardian picked it up as the cover of their newspaper. So it went super viral, and news outlets started to reach out to me, and I felt like I was still at an emotional moment at that time because of what was happening. But then The Guardian was like, hey, we need it as a cover. I'm like, yeah, take it, please. So when they took it, to me, I got really emotional because, just because they took it, but because of what they titled it. They titled it Street Spirit. I wasn't there, and it gets me emotional every time because I felt like I was there. Sorry. I was hoping this wouldn't happen. So for them to title it Street Spirit was huge for me because I was dying to be there, and for them to, for me to be able to capture those emotions with just the colors made me feel like I was there. So there's a verse in the Quran that says, "O mankind, indeed we've created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another." I chose this one because, we're all from different backgrounds, different faiths, different cultures. So I'm so thankful for platforms like these that allow us to sort of all connect on a deeper level. So thank you.
Oh, wow. We have a few minutes to answer some questions.
Yeah.
Who has a question? Hetty.
Are the paintings for sale?
All of them except for that last one. Pardon?
Where do you work it out?
We can talk about it. Yeah, I'm supposed to put them on the website, and I will. But yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, acrylic, yes. But I also work a lot with the molding paste first, just to get that texture and sort of that, let people, I love when people sort of feel the canvas as well. I want you to feel that train moving. So acrylic, yes.
What brought you to Oklahoma City?
So my husband, both our families live in Dallas, and then that's where we met, and then he's a cardiologist at OU. So we moved here, and he finishes up his training this year. So I'm like praying, and I'm telling him, I'm like, listen, we're staying in Oklahoma. You have no choice. So we love it here, and he loves it here as well. And our son, he's almost turning 2 now, so he's an Oklahoman. So I told him, I was like, we have no choice, so we're staying. So hopefully, yeah, we're staying. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about your day job
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so my main job is 3D architectural rendering and architecture, and as mentioned before, all the different cities that I've lived in and been in, and it's not like cities necessarily, because I've visited more countries, but I felt like those three are the prominent ones, where it was Liverpool, England, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan. And they're three very distinct architectural styles, because England is European, Saudi Arabia is Middle Eastern, and Sudan is African architecture. And I related more to the African one, but I feel like it gave me a sense, sort of, I'm here as a 7-year-old girl, and I can understand exactly why this material was used in England, but not in Sudan. And then hearing people's stories, and why this material and why that. And so then growing up, I knew architecture was it. And then I went to college at UT Dallas, graduated with my master's there. And then I worked full time with, and then after that I had my little one, so it was hard, so I launched my own company, Manzili 3D, which Manzili translates to my home in Arabic. And so I sort of bring that sort of cultural element to design, and that my home is your home is my home. So yeah, it's been great. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Or are we all just basking in the glow?
Do you have any current or new projects you're working on? Are you going to have any art shows or?
So my artwork currently is at a boutique, if you know it, called Greta Sloan in Nicholas Hills. That's where it currently all is for now, until I sort of find the space that I can have everything at. So that's so in regards to collections. So the government actually stepped down, and now it's. So I wish I should have put a before and after picture. The before picture is all these military men, and then the after picture is all men and women in suits, and the women wearing the white tobe, and women made up 50% of that. And that happened peacefully. So for it to go from military to half men, half women, and Sudan picked the woman to be the chief justice. So we have a woman chief justice. Like, that is huge. So with every new event that happens, sort of, obviously I run to my canvas. So there's new works in the works as well. Thank you.
Do you know, did any of your artwork make it over there? Like the woman in your famous painting, do you know was there any exposure of your artwork over Instagram? I know they have a lot of their minds, but you know what I mean? Did they get to see?
Yeah, they definitely did, but not until after the internet came back. What's interesting, and that was the scary part too, was because most of my, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins are all still back home, and we had no access to them, they had no access to us. What we saw, they had no idea. For them, hey, do you know, they just heard gunshots outside, and we have 3 German Shepherds that guard our house, and so the second, my 16-year-old cousin would hear a gunshot, he would, he was so excited. He would run to my uncle's gun closet and take the gun and be like, "Come, where are you?" And so they were living in complete fear. They were, it was just sort of, they were on standby. So they didn't get to see what the diaspora was doing until after. They didn't realize how much support was coming from outside of Sudan as well. Because yes, they were doing all that they were doing, and I don't want to share, the really horrific things that were happening, but they were really bad. And so once they got the internet back and they saw, wait, what? The news is talking about us? Like, this and this is happening? And then that's when they realized that it was like a global thing. Yeah.
Maybe one more, anyone? No? No further questions? What's your music that you listen to like me?
Good question. It ranges. Like, sometimes I'm in a classical mood, and then sometimes I'm like all in African music, and then sometimes it's like Arabic instrumental is my favorite. What about you? What do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of worship, and then lately I've been doing more of like 1920s jazz from New Orleans.
Oh, nice. Yeah, what you listen to is really important, because you're already in the zone. Nice.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
playlist, to be honest. Now, oh yes, okay, I figured out how to work it on the first try. As a reminder, we are part of a global community, which is why we value all of these different, it's one of the reasons why I value so many different and varying perspectives. So we want to say again, thank you to our local sponsors, Clover, the Treasury, and Roast Scout, and our volunteers. Can we get a whoop whoop for everybody that's out there? I don't do that for myself, I promise. It's like for everyone else that I feel bad. I'm like, hey guys, hey guys, hey guys. We're sending texts all the time. Hey guys, hey guys. And Beth, the breakfast boss, is like the coolest title of all time. Also, again, Les, you know I'm gonna do it, buddy. That crazy headshot for his videography. Christian, oh my God. Who did that? Mel? I didn't see it at first. Photography. Wow, you guys are like the strongest two men with cameras ever. And we had planned to do some really super cool aerial photography. As you know, we are not outside in the air. But we are so thankful for Stratosphere Images for volunteering and really trying so hard to make that happen. October, you guys, I haven't heard of JB, but I feel like you guys probably have. I'm joking, I am not. JB is going to be speaking next month in a series on flow. It is so small, wow. And I'm getting much older. Today was Muse. And we are so thankful and grateful for everyone who shows up. That's you, puts butts in seats and donuts in mouths and things on social. Hang out for a minute, hugs, high fives on your way out. Hetty owes a few people a high five, I feel like. So party on, and we'll see you in October.